Good evening. Welcome to the June 18th, 2014 Wyndham Raymond School RSU14 workshop meeting agenda. Time is 6:38. We are at the Raymond Broadcast Modular. Could I have a roll call, please?
You sure can. Kate Bricks.
Here.
Eric Colby. Jennifer Fleck.
Here.
Diana Forslin.
Here.
Marge Gavoni.
Here.
Pete Hensler. Jennifer Moore.
Here.
Don Perkins. Jerry Keene Dwyer.
Here. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will open public participation. Seeing as there is none, we will close public participation. And we will move on to board roundtable. This is where the board members have an opportunity to address on anything that might be going on in the community, offer congratulations, school news, etc. Kate?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Nothing. Diana?
I don't have anything.
Jerry?
Well, just a happy last day of school, and school's out for the summer, so enjoy, everybody. That's all.
Jennifer?
Nothing for me.
Jen?
Nothing for me.
Sandy?
Yes. I do have a few items. I'd like to congratulate the boys baseball team. They'll be going to the state championship this Saturday against Bangor. And if anybody's interested in attending, it'll be again at St. Joe's at 1 o'clock. And it's $8 for adults and $5 for students and $5 for senior citizens. But congratulations to the boys. I wish them well, and it's a long haul to get to this point, and a job well done. In addition to that, the boys and girls tennis made the playoffs this year during the spring sports, and the girls lacrosse advanced to the semifinals, second time in history, which congratulations to them. And we had over 20 qualifiers for states and outdoor track for boys and girls. So athletic department is doing a great job. In addition to that, we've had retirees for this year, and I'd just like to read off the names. These people have made a choice to go into the next phase of their life, and we congratulate them for all the work that they've done to this organization. Linda Andrews, Jenny Butler, Bob Crow, Linda Eastman, Margot Fournier, Gordon Fowler, Cynthia Hoyt, Donna Jasper, Errol Jasper, Joyce Logan, Donna Morton, and Pam Wynot. So congratulations to our retirees. For parents, the calendar for next year, just as a reminder, I know it's hard to believe to start thinking about September, but before you know it, we'll be there. The first day of school will be August 26th. Again, first day of school, August 26th, and that's grades 1 through 9. August 27th would be grades 10 and 12, and then the kindergartens start on August 28th. In addition, as I mentioned to the board a couple weeks ago, the Educational Foundation Committee to try to get that nonprofit organization together to really look at some fundraising opportunities. We had our first meeting. Don Davis was there. We had 2 Raymond people, Nick Hardy and Don Elwell, and 2 Wyndham community members, Michelle Jordan and Tom Bartell. And we're really trying to get that reestablished, and at this point in time we're calling around different districts that have the foundation and see what they do and how we could get started, and any advice that they might have for us. A lot of excitement, small committee. We hope to get more members. If anybody's interested in really working on this committee, it's outside of the district. It's a nonprofit foundation committee, educational foundation committee that really wants to raise funds for items that could go back to the school system over and beyond what the budget would support. In the old days, they did a lot of fundraising for scholarship, but I think that this committee is really looking at other opportunities over and beyond what's been done in the past. Kate?
Sandy, as you know, there used to be a foundation that was functional.
Right.
Is that 401c3 still viable?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Yes.
So
And
you
Tom
just-
Bartel has been sort of the key person to keep paying the $35 a year to
Okay.
keep the paperwork going
Right,
for that.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So hopefully it will take off. And adult ed graduation, we had the commissioner here that spoke, Jim Ryer, and it was nice to see him here and the graduates. And Jen Fleck also had some comments during the graduation as well. So it was a great time, and of course the high school graduation that we all attended. We wish our graduates the best of luck, and it's been a great year, and that's about it.
Thank you. I have just a couple of things. I went to a presentation at the middle school with Mr. Vachon's sixth grade class, and they are planning to come before the board next school season. They have big plans for Kate's group. They have two presentations they want to look at policy.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, so it was a kind of like a dry run. They're still working on it. They're going to continue it in their seventh grade when they start in the fall. One of them is on homework, and yeah,
Interesting.
isn't it?
Mhm.
The other one is on school start time,
Interesting.
which is another, yes,
Mhm.
interesting. And they do understand these are pretty deep subjects, and
Mhm.
you know, and they have a little bit more work to do on it, but they will be before us sometime to make the presentation next year. And as we all know, Mr. Bichon is leaving, but he has other teachers that are going to jump in and work with these students on these. The other thing is we have openings in a couple of our committees, and one would be on the facilities committee, and we presently have adequate people there because I haven't seen anybody jumping on board, but if there's somebody from the board who,
There's 3 now.
yeah, and we have 3. And the other thing is, right now, the facilities, as we know, committee is working on the middle school advisory committee, and our new board member, Jennifer Moore, is also on that. So in reality, presently, on that particular portion of
So
it,
she
we
could be
have,
the one.
that's right, for that. She doesn't know if she could if she could join the regular facilities committee after that because of when the meetings are.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of an open thing. And the other thing to keep in mind is they are still looking for SEA, Sebago Ed Alliance representative. So at some point, Sandy, maybe you can get more information out to just send a little blurb out to the board members as to what it would entail, and we can find out if somebody's
Okay.
on the board is interested in that before school starts up again.
Yep.
And that's all I have. So I think we cut everything unless Dawn, I'm sorry.
Refresh my memory as far as committees. Did we decide to have or not to have a technology representation? Because you have.
Oh, we did have, you're right, the conversation, and we never, I think we all agreed it was a good idea, but at the last meeting when we had the discussion, we were talking
I
about the
think
budget.
it might be.
I think it would be a good idea to do that.
Well,
Can you up there for 1 second, please? Thank you.
sorry about that. We have the monthly district technology committee
Right.
meeting, so, attending that.
Right, that's
I'd be
what I was
happy
thinking
to.
about.
So, if the board could identify which person is interested in that, I'm happy to extend an invitation with a full annual schedule for every monthly meeting, and whatever ones they can attend, they'd be welcome at all of them.
That would be great. So if we could get,
I would love to see a representation and then have a report
Sure.
out, rather than just having you come up with the deer in the headlight.
Right.
We could have.
Yeah? that
and
would
we'd,
be
right, we'd have a
excellent.
heads up and we'd know
Yeah.
what was going on. So what we'll do is we'll send something out to all of the board members to get some feedback, unless you would like that, unless you want to jump in.
I'm not going to hog the glory, so it's.
Okay, so we will send it out to all the board members, because they're not all here this evening.
Perfect.
And you will get
Great,
a representative from the board.
excellent. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Now, last thing on the board roundtable is we would like to introduce the public to our new school board member, Jennifer Moore. Jennifer Moore is our latest representative from Raymond, and we would like to give her a big welcome and thank you.
Thank you, happy to be here.
Great. Okay, on to the item 6 on the agenda, which will be the RSU14 budget referendum results. If I could have a motion on that. Excuse me.
I move that the computation and declaration, is this a hard one?
Oh, I know.
Of votes stated and attached hereto be and is hereby approved. Further, that the computation and declaration of votes be entered upon the records of Regional School Unit 14, in parentheses, the Regional School Unit. Further, that a certified copy of the computation and declaration of votes be sent to each of the municipal clerks within the Regional School Unit.
Did you second? I'm sorry. I did. Oh, sorry. Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any comment from the public? Seeing none, is there any comment from the board? Sandy, do you want to give just our Dawn a little bit on this? I know it's pretty straightforward, but
Yeah, it simply is your certification of the vote and needs to be sent to the clerk so that they can work up their taxation assessment.
great.
Yep.
Thank you. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Okay. Next, we have appointments.
I move to approve the appointment of the following employees for the 2014-15 school year. Natalie Scorvin, Physical Science 1 year in Wyndham High School. Vanessa Michaud, Physical Science 1 year, Wyndham High School.
Second.
Sandy, these are both replacements.
Replacements, yeah.
Okay. Is there any comment from the public? Any comment from the board? Seeing none, all in favor? And it passes. Committee reports. Jerry, the Finance Committee?
Okay, great. We met on May 21st, which just seems like a very long time ago, and we had Phil and Linda meet with us to talk to us about the possibility of billing for main care. I do have handouts for everybody. I'm going to wait till the end of the meeting because you'll be so riveted by them that you won't pay attention. Actually, they are actually very riveting, and also there's a lot to try to understand here. So I'm going to try to give you an overview, and I think that probably we need to have Linda and Phil come and do a workshop with us for all of us to understand it, because the Finance Committee was sort of deer in the headlights, I think, when we left. Some history is, prior to a couple of years ago, it was pretty standard for school systems to bill main care for students who received main care services. Generally had that as their benefit, and we could bill them. And at one time there was quite a significant amount of money that was billed to main care for services that were provided, you know, in terms of OT, PT, speech, a variety of kinds of things that were provided. A couple of years ago, the feds came up with some sort of idea that we could no longer keep doing that. That part Linda was as clear about, but everyone stopped doing it, screeched to a halt. Some districts continued to do it and found out that they were not doing it properly and had to pay money back. And so our district had stopped billing, except for speech, PT, and OT, which are very clear ICD codes that you can say how much time, and there's a certain amount of money that main care will pay back. About a year ago, after Linda retired, through the Sebago Ed Alliance, she was contracted or worked with them to look into this whole idea for all the schools about going back and billing main care. And she came to us on the 21st with several pages of opportunities in terms of being able to go ahead and project some pretty significant revenue if we were to go ahead and do this. Now, the caveat here is that there's a lot that goes into billing main care. There's a significant amount that goes in with that. There are certain types of students who are more likely to be able to do that, to be billed. And there's have such certain names to them, and I'm not going to go into all those. There's section 65 and there's section 28 and a variety of things. But needless to, and it's costly in terms of we'll probably have to hire somebody just to do the billing, just to do billing for main care. There's probably about 90 students altogether, I think is what she's projecting between the section 65 and the section 28. And additional social work students services, doing psych evaluations, doing behavioral health kinds of things. We can end up training ed techs, teachers, a variety of people to be behavioral health providers. As long as you have a college degree, you can be trained to do that. She's projecting after a couple of years of these startup expenses that we could net about $500,000 a year, which is a pretty significant chunk of change. But my caveat is that there's a whole huge thing that goes into billing main care. I happen to be a main care provider. I don't go near it right now because there's a whole huge thing with Medicare, main care, psychologists, people who billed for years and now have to pay 3 years worth of money back because now main care is dialing back, or the state isn't saying, oh, we shouldn't have done that, we shouldn't have paid you, that crossover, now you have to pay it back. So my caveat is I want to be sure that this is, not that Linda's not being totally upfront and legitimate, I'm not questioning her,
No.
but there's a lot that goes into this, and $500,000 is a lot of money, but it's a lot of money to pay back if it's, one, not done properly, or for some reason the state decides, oh, we made a mistake, we don't think you can do it any longer. So that's my concern. I would like to suggest that we take a look at these, because there's a big upfront cost to that and a yearly cost, but there's also a great benefit, but I think we should have Linda and Phil come back. There is a spreadsheet that she didn't have when we met with her in May of other schools that are doing this, and there are some schools that are doing it at this point, and from up to 40, 16, 22, the number of support staff is on here. There's a vendor that you can pay to do some of this as well. But it could be a great benefit, but I think we need to get more information. If that's, Don is shaking his head, and
Absolutely correct.
I think we all are we're thinking when we left that meeting that there was a lot of information there. Linda's done a lot of work, so she's certainly put hours into looking at this, and I think she would love to come with Bill and talk some more about what this means for us and the benefit of it. So.
I don't want,
Hey,
I don't want to get in the weeds, but just a couple questions. So we currently and have always billed for speech, PT, and OT?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that she said about this year, correct me if I'm wrong, it was about $70,000, I
Yeah,
think.
I think, I don't have the
Approximately
That we recouped.
70,000 this year that we recouped
Okay.
in terms of being able to bill for those services.
Okay, and my second question is there an economy of scale through the Sevago Ed Alliance in hiring someone to do the paperwork? Or are those folks not on board, or what's the deal?
How do I characterize that? I'm not sure that they're not on board. I think really what's happening with that is there's the concern that Jerry raised relative to the fact that the rulemaking doesn't always seem to line up with the reality, and then all of a sudden you get in a place where, well, we did tell you that, but that wasn't correct, so here we go.
Right.
So the other superintendents speaking for them weren't so comfortable that we would put the Alliance School under this model. And there was another reason for that, which is that we intend to move the fiscal and human resource management around a bit, and that would be really hard to do in terms of thinking of audits of this kind of a program if you didn't have a completely consistent leadership of that activity. So it was more that they will be considering things more independently. This was one of those situations where it just didn't seem to work as a five-some. Seemed to be better built for an individual district to make that decision, particularly since the whole notion of this is that while there are startup costs and expenses, as Jerry pointed out, is that it's going to net a profit, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other considerations, I don't mean to ramble on, but one of those is that through our funding formula, the computation that we receive from the state, they actually reduce it by that sum of money, but then you get to keep the income. So there's some, which is fine, I'm not trying to scare you with that, but there are some financial nuances that you would need to be comfortable with before we move forward. But Jerry's correct, the experts are Phil and Linda, and I think it has merit, so I do want to say that. But we want to be cautious and do our due diligence.
What, Jerry, what timing, I mean, do we hope to get a decision so that if we do go forward, would it be for this coming school year? Or?
I think that was Linda's sort of hope and plan, but I think it was pretty clear as we left that meeting that we as the Finance Committee were not ready to say, go ahead and start trying to hire people and look for somebody to do this. So I think the very soonest would be maybe mid-year if we could begin to do that. There's no reason for it to have to start. It could start really at any time. It depends on when you do the billing. There is a significant amount of training that needs to go on in terms of behavioral health professionals and also the social workers, and there's a cost to that. So some of that would also, could have been done in August, and that won't probably happen. So it may not happen this year. But again,
Okay.
I tend to be more cautious about this than,
Yep.
you know, it has great benefit, but it also has great
Well, we
cost.
just don't want to get burned. is the thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I personally, in some of the amounts that they were paying per hour, I was astounded. I mean, they pay behavioral health professionals twice what they pay me as a private practitioner, and I was quite amazed at what they were saying that reimbursements were. So
Well, there may be some opportunities for you.
I know.
Would you like
I
to
know,
look at
but it's just, I mean,
No,
it's
I hear what you're
agency-
saying, though,
It's
yeah.
agency versus private,
Yeah.
which is, but I was just wanted to really be sure that, and Linda looked and she emailed me back and said, yes, that is accurate. But it also, again, makes one sort of begin to
Well,
wonder.
you bring a good point of view to it, having experienced it, so
Yeah.
that'll be good.
Yeah, okay. So we
Thank you.
would, I'll get back with Linda and Phil. It probably won't happen, obviously, until September. But let her know that we have a workshop once a month, and we can workshop more than one thing on a workshop meeting.
Sure.
So we can get
That'd
that
be great.
settled. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? And I'll pass these, or take them or whatever as you leave, and great
Thank you.
bedtime reading.
Kate, anything on policy?
Just a summary that this was probably the quietest year that we've ever had regarding policy. It was just really very quiet. It's kind of nice, and that is because we've completed the first set of required policies as an RSU, where, just a brief explanation, Raymond had their own set of policies and we had our set of policies, and once we became an RSU, we had to create an RSU policy. So melding those two, we've completed all of the required and a lot of the second tier. Just for information, because there are some new folks here, if there should be an occurrence where we require a policy that the RSU has not approved as a board, then you would revert back to either the Wyndham or the Raymond policy, so that we're still covered by those policies, but we just haven't. And the likely reason why is they are not first or second tier. And sometimes school districts have higher priorities than what the recommendations are, and so they might bump some of these other policies up a bit. So we're in very good shape, though. I just have to say that. We're in excellent shape as far as the required, and I think as a board, you've been very helpful in ensuring that we stay current, and that I think is really important as well. There's been a couple things that we've had to revise along the way, and you've been very responsive and get it done, and it's happened. So that's been a pleasure. There are a few policies that are still, a couple that have been tabled regarding transportation, as you recall, and we really haven't. Most of the policies that are currently kind of waiting in the wings are related to the high school, and they are just swamped in April, May, June, going into just trying to get things together for students. And as a courtesy to them, I thought, well, you know what, we can wait until after school's out and then tackle those. So hopefully there can be a meeting or two during the summer, and some of these I'd like to have, particularly the transportation piece, ready to go by the beginning of the year, because it impacts sports. Transportation, as you might recall, there was a policy for transporting students, and then staff transporting students. And we are trying to make sure, and it's more complicated than actually I thought it would be, to make it all mesh together. Wouldn't you agree, Diana? So we just want to make it right, and hopefully we'll have that before you at the beginning of the year.
Great. Now, just for the interest of the public and some of the, possibly new board members, how many policies Because they don't get a policy book anymore.
The original Wyndham book, I think, had almost 400 policies. Yeah, and we have not gone through that many, and a lot of them were 1988. So you can, and not pertinent. I mean, you can see how
Yeah.
education has changed so much, not pertinent, but there's quite a few, and you all get the notices in the MSMA when they come through, and often there's policy news in there, so you'll be in the know, just like the policy committee is regarding anything new come down the pike. But I would say that if there are any policies that the board would like to have addressed, I mean, we're often reactive to either revisions or the tier of policies, but if there are any policies that we feel we would like to address, and I know one that had been waiting in the wings, and I'm not sure whether we had decided or whether it was even a policy, but the pay-to-play was one, and the fees was another one, and I don't know whether we just had consensus or whatever, but some of those kinds of policies, it would be great to know, like, over the summer, so that we can kind of do some prep work and get them scheduled in.
Yeah. I can't remember what the result was, but there was a question that came up about, in fact, technology, and it was taking pictures, was it taking
Oh, yeah.
pictures with your cell phone?
Yeah, we
If that
revised
was
that.
covered. Okay.
Yeah, we've got one. We got it.
You got it.
We
Okay.
did.
Very
Okay,
good.
I think next year we'll probably spend a lot of time on proficiency diploma.
Right.
That will be the next big work.
Yeah.
Right, and Chris has sent me all of those, and Christine too has sent me information of the different templates. And we'll probably require another sit down with her to kind of go through those, but that will be huge work. That is because it's a whole shift in paradigm, and there's going to need to be a lot of education, not only on our parts, but on the parents' parts too. So, thank you, Sandy. That is a huge piece.
Yeah. And I, for the benefit of the newer board members, I know usually when Kate sends these out to the board members for the first reading,
Mhm.
she asks for comments back. It would be very, very helpful if people would reply to her request rather than wait till they get here. And she's trying to make notes over there.
So I won't set my hair on fire.
So she won't set her hair on fire. We have a much more happier Kate sitting.
Well, no, what
It's frustrating.
primarily so that some research can be done
Yeah.
prior to, because it usually there's a
Required.
lot of resources that we can tap into.
Right, okay, thank you. Okay, Facilities Committee, there is no report, because at our last meeting, Katrina gave a report, what's going on with the middle school, and right now, the Middle School Advisory Committee is just meeting on that, and although I probably can defer to Kate on this in the, did you get the minutes?
I just got the minutes, and the plan is to have a final infographic that will go out to all the parents, because the message was this committee started in September and ends in June with a recommendation to the board, and I think the committee all agreed that we wanted to have a final piece for some closure.
Right.
Like, what did we do and how did it end? So, yeah, that'll be summer homework.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay, moving on, and we're ahead of time, isn't that nice? Yes. Okay, report of the secretary. And before we start this, there's quite a few here, and I think everybody received the email that stated when we start back up again in the fall, the plan is that the minutes will come out the following first meeting of each month of the meetings before. So we will not have, unless something escapes us, but we will definitely try to keep an eye on this, that they don't build up. Yep. I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of the April 2nd, 2014 meeting.
Second.
All those in favor, any questions from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Abstention. You've been here.
Right.
I move to approve the minutes of the April 9th, 2014 meeting.
Second.
Any questions? Anything from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I move to
Um,
approve the no?
Opposed, abstained?
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I keep
Yeah.
forgetting. Go ahead.
Ready?
Yep.
I move to approve the minutes of the April 30th, 2014 meeting.
Second.
Is there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, abstaining? One abstention.
I move to approve the minutes of the May 21st, 2014 meeting.
May 7th.
May 7th.
Sorry. Oh, let's go to the 7th.
Okay, that's a good one.
Second.
Okay. Any questions, concerns? Nothing? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, abstentions? One abstention.
Can I do this one?
Sure.
I move to approve the
You
minutes of
already
the
did.
May 21st, 2014 meeting.
Second.
Questions? All set? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, abstained, one abstention.
I move to approve the minutes of the May 28th, 2014 meeting.
Second.
Okay.
It says that I was there, I was not at that meeting, so I don't know if you need to mark
Yes,
that as
we
absent or
can-
something, but.
We can make that correction,
Okay,
Sandy.
I wasn't at that meeting.
All those in favor with the correction? Opposed, abstention, two abstentions.
I move to approve the minutes of the June 4th, 2014 meeting.
Okay, any questions?
You needed a second.
I'm sorry,
Second.
jumping the gun here.
I wasn't at that meeting either.
I wasn't either, and it's not reflected in the minutes.
And I have a correction.
And your correction is?
It's noted that there was a motion by Katrina to nominate myself as the chair. That motion was actually Eric Colby.
Okay. Is that it? Is there anything, any other corrections needed? Okay. All those in favor with the corrections as stated? Opposed? Abstention? Three abstentions. Okay. On to the lease purchase of school vans.
I move to award the bid for the lease purchase of 3 vans for a total price of $52,181. A 2012 Dodge Grand Caravan SXT from Frank Gallo's Chevrolet in Saco with 34,000 miles on it for $15,881. And 2 from Emerson Chevrolet in Auburn, a 2013 Dodge Grand Caravan XXT with 30,000 miles on it for $18,600, and a 2010 Ford E158 passenger van with 28,000 miles on it for $17,700.
Second.
Okay, Sandy, you want to give a little background on this?
Yeah, what, with the transportation department with the buses, we typically purchase either 2 or 3 a year, get on a cycle so that, you don't get into this one year where you need to buy 5 or 6 buses. And we haven't really done that with the vans, and so what Mike's trying to do now is get into a cycle where we can predict how many vans we're gonna have to order each year. Because sometimes it does become crash and burn. Pedro might call and say, oh my goodness, we put all these miles on the vans, we need more vans, and that can happen anytime during the year. So the idea is to get more on a cycle here, and as you know, we have quite a few vans with all the programs that we offer. So, anything I left out with that?
No, I don't think so. Thank you. In this particular case, these are assigned to the real school. And just for the public's, I guess, interest is that we seldom buy brand-new vehicles, but we do look for very good used ones so that we're not paying top dollar for the vehicles. Some cases that's not applicable simply because we may need a plow truck that you want to have equipment that you know is going to last for a long period of time. But I think we do a really good job in terms of the mechanics and taking care of the machinery.
A 2010 with 28,000 miles is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it? Just out of curiosity, if you have the answer, do these come with warranties? I mean,
I don't have the answer, but I can find out for you. I would think they might have some limited, but I will find out.
yeah, well, the newer one anyway, I don't know about the 2010, but, yes.
So this was in the current budget?
This is in the real school budget. When you get to the next motion, you'll see that there's going to be a cost obviously associated with the lease purchase. The budget was $21,000. Ultimately, the annual cost is about $17,800. You'll see that. You don't have that information. Jerry will
telling you.
provide that.
Thank you. Good.
All right, now, if I remember correctly, from even earlier on, when we've been doing this with the buses for quite a while, but when Mike Kelly was before us and gave his presentation about when he rolls these things over, it's a combination of mileage and conditions. I know safety, there's a very large safety factor in some of these vehicles due to the fact that the frames start to rust, and
It's true.
believe me, I
I know.
checked them. Yeah. So it's the same thing with the vans, and being from the real school, it would be even more so because the real school goes places that ours don't. But
Thank
that's
you.
just a little bit more information for everybody. Okay, saying that, all in favor? It's unanimous.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for 3 school vans through Androscoggin Bank at $52,181 at 2.14% fixed amortized over 3 years at an annual cost of $17,763.24.
Correct.
Should that be in the best interest of the district? Do I need to read attachment 1?
No.
Okay, good. Because I don't have it, so I can't read it.
It's the long. Oh. Want that? Sure.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I will just say that there were 2 possible banks to work with, Androscoggin and Gorham, and Androscoggin came in at a lower fixed amortized rate, and that's why they were chosen.
Great. Any questions? Anything from the board? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Androscoggin, yeah.
It is unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Androscoggin.
Okay, moving on to lease/purchase of school computers.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into the financing agreement for the lease purchase of the awarded bid for Apple computers through Apple at $1,198,806.80, amortized over 4 years, an annual cost of $299,701.70. Should that be in the best interest of the district?
Second.
Okay. Can you give a, Mr. Hickey, it's so nice to see you. Can you give us just a little bit of, for the new, especially for the new board member and the public?
Yes, absolutely. I will route around copies of the executive summary that you've already received, just in case you don't have it before you
Thank you.
tonight. There was a board meeting where we came before the board months prior. There was a strong desire and survey request for interest from the high school, and what came in top was the Apple MacBook Air through the MLTI program. And that's a 4-year lease with the interest rate built in, so there's no additional interest rate. 1,030 MacBooks for the students at current enrollment estimated for the fall, and 80 for staff machines. That leaves 1,110 units. There will be no iPad minis. That only happens when a school like the middle school went for the tablet devices. So those aren't really needed as a teaching tool for the teachers because they're not teaching a tablet interface to the students. There is a wireless network upgrade that's included in the overall price. We've already met with the designer. Brett King from Apple. I did a walkthrough at the high school today. Best guess for landing delivery are first or second week of July for the machines. We had all our paperwork in on time the morning after the election by the public, where it was ratified, the budget was ratified in support for this major initiative. As part of the budget went through, we notified Apple, got the order going. Then Apple and the state need to negotiate. It takes roughly a week for them to work that out, to ratify the contract at the state level, the Milty contract. And then Apple is predicting 2 to 3 weeks delivery of devices after that, so we would give them to the teachers. Been working with Mr. Howell, and we will leave the existing machines that the teachers already have in their hands till the end of September, so they feel confident that everything they needed to migrate over for school has made it to their new device before we'll take them back and redeploy them. Many of them will go to special ed techs and ed techs in the high school. Of the 80 machines that we have now, the MacBooks, older MacBooks by teachers, they'll be repurposed. There will be an Apple TV. The way MLTI and the state work it out is one Apple TV for every 15 students. You divide 1,030 by 15, that leaves us 68 total Apple TVs, and we've ordered 58 of them with VGA projector connections compatible with the majority of the projectors in the high school now, and 10 with the newer HDMI format. We are scheduling all teacher and student devices to be ready the first day of school. Deployment is easier on the tech department. There's more control at the end user level. We hand them the device. The only thing they really need is an Apple ID so that they can log into the device. And then through an area that is set up for them where we would put published software that we own licenses for, they just go there, click on it, and it installs. So there's not going to be a big holdup. There's not going to be a big worry. Will we have them all imaged in time? Because we hand them the device, they log in, they pick and click and download and install. So, and this model's worked all over the state for the last few years with other districts running Apple. So especially on the iPad, this is how the iPad has been run. So that model is proven over the last few years. Pam Hecker, she is the person who maintains the netbooks in the high school for the last 4 years, and she is getting training on the Apple product. We are considering hosting a Apple Tech seminar August 6th in the high school. I'm running it past Bill, my staff, and Marlene to reserve. Bill has some electrical testing, so I will have to work around that, but there'll be 4 classrooms, and other districts will be coming to the high school to receive training, and of course our staff will be there. So there's the breakdown. The entire project is just under $1.2 million. It's $299,701.70 per year over 4 years. The state gives the option to break that down quarterly, so you could pay 4 payments per year, 16 payments overall on the life of the contract, and I leave it up to Mr. Davis to determine if that's what we're going to exercise, but it doesn't affect the money at all. It's just the time schedule. And I'm happy for any other questions if I've left anything out.
Okay.
Thank you. A couple things. It seems to me in the past that there's been a lot of rigmarole trying to load stuff on by your staff, and it takes a lot of time. Will that be necessary for these? Do you have to load junk on before you can distribute them?
Not really, no. We're just
So
going to
it's-
inventory, hand it out.
Okay, good.
So we will send out an email via listserv to remind students especially to get an Apple ID. The vast majority probably already do. Between iPods and iPads that have been around forever, Apple iTunes accounts, it's all the same Apple ID. So most of them already have it, but they will need it for when they show up for first day of school, or it will delay them slightly.
Okay. And then my second question is, and this is because I'm losing marbles. I seem to recall discussion of upgrade of the wireless.
Yes.
So I'm
Yep, and yes,
Okay.
that's in here. So the wireless, when we did the walkthrough today with Apple's representatives, what that means is they take signal strength in the different rooms.
Yep.
And for the most part, they're going to unplug the existing wireless access point in the ceiling and plug in the new one. There is no installation of a controller this time around. The controller runs remotely through the cloud. It doesn't exist in the schools, and this is what Apple and MLTI have been pushing in the more recent deployments, especially with the iPads. That way the schools don't need to take on the burden of maintaining the controller. It's all done remotely for you. So the hard part is it's a 6-week order from Cisco, who makes the wireless access points, the things that go in the air that talk wirelessly. And that even with Apple's purchasing power, they can't force that to go much quicker. So we're looking at roughly, best estimate, first week of August for those to land. To plug them in, minimal. You're running around with a ladder, 40, 50 rooms, I'm thinking a couple days, worst case.
I know with phones, connections in certain spots in the building, it just doesn't happen. Is that going to be remedied with this new, no?
No, because that's completely separate. That's
That's
the
separate?
wireless, the cell network. That has nothing to do
Okay,
with
so
our
that
data
has nothing to
network.
do with the laptops.
Mhm.
Okay, and then my final question is the insurance piece, and are we still doing insurance for these?
I would think we
Purchase.
would, sure,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay,
That's been a good program.
okay,
Mhm.
all right,
That's it.
thank you.
Jerry?
I had the insurance question, but that's great. What's happening with the old Dells, the Mac, or the whatever, the netbooks?
The
What-
netbooks?
Yeah, what, did we ever
Rough.
decide what we're doing with those?
Yep, roughly 400 of them are going to Wyndham Primary School to get the numbers up for the lower grades where they weren't one-to-one. Roughly another 100 are going to Manchester School to fortify their labs, because what they have now, even though they're larger computers, they're so old and so slow. The netbooks are actually a better processor with more RAM, which is kind of scary to think of.
It really is.
And then there's interest throughout the district. Pam Hecker at the high schools mentioned there's at least 10 students who have interest in purchasing them, and I'm going to work through Dawn and the finance committee for decision on selling those. There's been a little bit of mention of possibility of interest from Sebago at Alliance, but that's not firm. So there is interest in the devices, and if we have leftover inventory, which we would, then to sell those at somewhere, I'm thinking $25 to $50, maybe $40 is the magic number. I really don't think we'd have too much trouble unloading them.
Can you remind me again what the number of netbooks we own are?
We originally bought almost 1,050, and then we supplemented beyond that, and so somewhere between 1,050 and 1,100 of them.
Sorry, Jerry, were you
No.
done? I'm sorry.
Did you have follow-up?
Just, at some point, if you could come back, I know you can't do it right now, come back with just sort of where we are at with one-to-one in terms of different,
Absolutely.
Schools and grades or whatever, and
Mhm.
are we at one-to-one everywhere, or we're not at a one-to-one everywhere? So that would just be helpful, because if we have these and they can be used, so
Sure.
we have one-to-one, that would be great. But
We're close to it now. Grades 3 and above on the Wyndham end, 4 and above on the Raymond end, and this will help, especially in Wyndham Primary School. So the only place where we'd have an absence of one-to-one would be at RES. They really don't want to straddle both platforms. They really want to stay Apple.
oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
Diana?
Just a quick question. When the students, like say an incoming freshman, gets their new Apple, is that going to be theirs then for the 4 years?
We won't technically own it till the end of the 4-year lease, and then there'll be a buyout option like there has been on all the deployments. So best guess, $47, $48 a piece. We'd have to actually pay for it because the state owns them, they buy them through Apple, and then they turn it over ownership at the end of the contract for a buyout amount. So technically, they wouldn't be ours to promise at the end of 4 years.
I
Lots
thought
of
you
questions.
meant,
I
Yeah.
thought she meant, do they have
Do they
the same computer?
Right.
Keep
same
When the
machine
student-
Does it-
all the way
do they-
through?
Oh.
When you're going to hand those out,
I see what
does
you're
that
saying,
stay
sorry.
with the student the entire,
Yes, it gets assigned to them. And
like with
yes.
the iPads here, the students have to turn them in on vacations and during the summer? How's it going to work with?
They would be
These
turned back in
students
at the
are in
summer.
the
They don't go home for the summer.
Okay.
But, at the high school level, they do go home during the week and weekends.
so all their stuff, in other words, they can have their portfolio stuff
Right.
for the 4 years on the same machine?
Yes, and they get an iCloud backup, and it's tied to their Apple ID. So at the end of 4 years, they graduate, they move on. That's their account, and whatever they're storing in that lives in the cloud. It goes with them.
That's pretty cool.
Gotta love the cloud.
Where's that cloud?
Where is, yeah, I know.
All over the world.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's unbelievable. You all set?
Yes.
Does anybody else have anything? You all set, Kate? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Nice job.
Before we leave,
We have to vote on this, don't we?
yes, okay, thank you.
That's okay.
Before we leave this,
Yes.
okay. All right, are there any other questions? We're all set. All those in favor? It is unanimous. When I did the committee reports, and I purposely cut this down because the other one was too long, and I meant to ask, and so you have my apologies, but I will go back and say, is there anyone on any other committee that has anything that they would like to report? I know things have kind of slowed down a bit on a lot of them, but I didn't know if anybody had anything else. No, okay, but I will say on the, made me think of it, on the vocational, I'm still waiting for them to get back to me. Both schools, the Westbrook Regional and Paths in Portland, is supposed to be sending me a student, the number of students within the district, our district, and how many are enrolled in each one of their classes. They waited a little bit because you have the ones who, yes, I do, yes, I, maybe, and then the ones that commit. So they're waiting for to get past the commitment date and to send it out. But I will send them a reminder. Remind them I'm still out there waiting, and then I will forward them when I receive them. Okay, Jerry?
I forgot at Board Roundtable, I do want to thank Sandy and Don, but particularly Chris and all of his staff for a wonderful graduation. They did a really terrific job, and as warm as it was, they do a great job, and it was nice to be back at the Civic Center that day in particular, because it would have been
It was hot out.
extraordinarily hot to have been outside. But I meant to say that during Roundtable, that they did a great job, and I appreciate their efforts.
Yeah, it was great. Okay, saying that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous, we are adjourned.